Hello students, welcome to your channel Cbse English classes. I hope you all are good there. So in today's video lecture, I have taken up a Cbse poem which is for the students of 12th standard, and the name of the poem is Aunt Jennifer's Tigers, and it is a very interesting poem which we have taken today because this poem has got a very deep theme and a very deep meaning. And this poet, Adrienne, is an American poet, and she is also a great feminist. And this poem is also based on the concept of feminism. That's what she used to promote in most of her poems. Here, this title, Aunt Jennifer's Tigers. This title itself is symbolic because the title is basically not exactly talking about any tiger, but is talking about an abstract idea, which is the idea of, uh, you know, uh, dare, or you can say fearlessness, or you can say courage. So we see here that Aunt Jennifer's Tigers is the title that has been deliberately taken by the poetess so as to give us this idea by giving the picture of the tiger that, you know, Aunt Jennifer was also wanted to be as courageous as the tiger, but then she could only weave these tigers on a piece of cloth, but couldn't herself be like one of those, just because she was a married woman and she had always submitted herself to her husband because she was in a way compelled to remain submissive to her husband, which had always tormented her, but she had found herself helpless in this situation and couldn't do anything about it. So, this situation of Aunt Jennifer, this helplessness, this compulsion to remain submissive to her husband, has been very beautifully discussed in this poem and portrayed in this poem. This poem is showing you this, but metaphorically, like the tigers in the title of the poem are metaphorically giving you this abstract feeling of fearlessness, courage, boldness, frankness, which were absolutely lacking in the life of Aunt Jennifer, due to which she had to choose to weave them onto a piece of cloth, maybe a tablecloth or anything else, wall hanging or something. But then this had been chosen by Aunt Jennifer to do on a piece of cloth to weave the tigers. And why did she choose to weave the picture of the tigers instead of some flowers or something? Just because Aunt Jennifer had this idea in her mind that she used to love their life. She used to be like them. She wanted to be as free as them, as courageous as them, and she wanted to be as bold as them. But then she couldn't ever be like that in her entire life. So, this aspect of the society has been portrayed through this poem by the poet, that our society had been so patriarchal. Patriarchy is male domination. Always there had been, the dominion of the male people. You can say male persons. So, this woman, this character of Aunt Jennifer is a victim of a male dominating society where she has witnessed all sorts of, you can say, suppression, and she couldn't ever take her decisions, couldn't ever have her own identity, must have suffered from identity crisis as well. And consequently, she is seen weaving the tigers on a piece of cloth. And this picture has been created in the poem by the poet so that she could very clearly give you this idea how the women, even the married women, especially rather the married women, they used to remain suppressed under the oppression of their husbands just because they were not equally treated as a counterpart in their lives, but they were treated as inferior to them. So the male persons used to consider their women in their lives as inferior. So this is what has been described. And we see that the poetess has done, a great justice to that aspect of the society which she has tried to describe and show here. So let us start the poem, and also we will keep on uh, finding out the literary devices that have been used in the poem. This is the first stanza. And Jennifer's tigers prance across a screen, bright topaz denizens of a world of green. They do not fear the men beneath the tree. They pace in sleek, chivalric certainty. So, and Jennifer's tigers prance. Prance means to jump about like this, very actively, very energetically to jump about. So she has been doing this, she has been drawing them or weaving them, I should say, on a piece of cloth, as I just told you. So that's why, because Aunt Jennifer is doing this, Aunt Jennifer is weaving the tigers, therefore in the poem it has been mentioned that Aunt Jennifer's tigers, the tigers did not belong to her in any other way, but just because she was weaving them on the piece of cloth, it has been mentioned that the tigers were Aunt Jennifer's. So it is written, Aunt Jennifer's tigers prances like jump all about, very energetically. Across a screen means on that piece of cloth. Bright topaz denizens of a world of green. Topaz is a kind of, is actually a yellow color, deep color, bright yellow color, you can say. So topaz is a stone which is of bright yellow color. And so as to give you the picture of a bright yellow color, here a metaphor has been used in this line. And metaphorically, this word, this topaz, is standing for the bright yellow color body of the tigers. So the poetess has taken the help of this bright yellow color stone named topaz to describe the beautiful bright yellow color body of the tigers, metaphorically, right? So bright topaz, denizens means there they used to live. So the animals are the citizens of a forest. And here again, a word of green is actually referring to the forest area. So Aunt Jennifer has weaved the tigers, and also she has weaved, obviously when she has weaved the tigers, then tigers are generally found in the forest. So this is what you have to imagine, that these bright yellow color objects are prancing in the forest. They do not fear the men beneath the tree. This is a very, very important line which you must underline and which you must understand, that these tigers have been portrayed by by the poetess in this manner, that they were not at all scared or afraid of anybody, of any human being, just because they were so powerful. They had their individuality, they have that boldness in them, because they know that they are powerful, they have got the strength, they are not under any kind of a suppression, and which is metaphorically, on the contrary, manifesting the life of Aunt Jennifer, who is like all those women in the society who are a victim of the patriarchal notions prevailing in the society, or such ideas, you can say. To simplify this statement even more, I will say that Aunt Jennifer is one of those women who are suffering in the male dominating society. So they is actually referring to the tigers in both the lines. They pace in sleek chivalric certainty. That means they pace means they move in sleek chivalric certainty. Certainty is surety, and chivalric is like bravery without any fear. Very bravely, very courageously, and boldly they they were. And also, sleek. Sleek means healthy, looking very smooth. Their skin, their body uh, looks to be very smooth and very healthy. So we see that these tigers are very healthy, they are very courageous, and they are simply moving with some kind of a surety, with the surety of their courage, their boldness, fearlessness, and this same surety of courage and boldness and fearlessness is lacking in the life of Aunt Jennifer, who is not able to move without fear. And due to this mental suffering for such a long time, she must have lost her health as well. That's why she has used the word sleek to show the contrary picture of those tigers that she has taken to contrast between her life and the life of those uh, daring tigers, those healthy, courageous tigers. So, this is how we have completed this first stanza, and now we will go on to the second stanza. So, before I go on to the second stanza, let me tell you in brief the figures of speech or the literary devices that were used in this stanza. So, as I told you, that there was a metaphor used to, uh, with that word topaz, to compare the body of the tiger with that yellow color stone. And then there is another figure of speech, that is anaphora. And anaphora is a figure of speech which says when same word is used in two consecutive lines. Like we had seen, there was a usage of the word they in two consecutive lines, and that is a figure of speech called anaphora. So this is how we move on to the second stanza of the poem. And Jennifer's fingers fluttering through her wool find even the ivory needle hard to pull. The massive weight of Uncle's wedding band sits heavily upon Aunt Jennifer's hand. So we see here in the second stanza, Aunt Jennifer's fingers fluttering through her wool. Now, fingers fluttering, in this line there is a usage of a figure of a speech which is called alliteration. And alliteration is a figure of a speech in which it happens that in a single line it happens that two or more than two such words are used whose first letter is same, and it is a consonant sound giving letter. For example, finger and fluttering. We see finger and fluttering. So finger is a word which has got the first letter F, and then fluttering also has got the first letter F. So this is how F is repeating in the two words, and in the beginning it is repeating, and F is that letter which gives a consonant sound. So this is how these conditions are satisfying, that altogether make it a figure of a speech which is called alliteration. So in this line there is a usage of the literary device called alliteration. Aunt Jennifer's fingers fluttering through her wool. That means when she was weaving, on that piece of cloth, that wool, right? So her fingers were fluttering, like moving, like trembling. That means her fingers were trembling or shaking just because she was weaving the picture of the tigers that were so close to her heart, just because she loved their lifestyle and she wanted to live that kind of a life. And she had a contrary life to that. That's why, while weaving, her fingers had started trembling. Then find even the ivory needle hard to pull. That means that ivory needle, which must be so light in weight, but it had become difficult and cumbersome and clumsy for Aunt Jennifer to handle that needle or to hold that needle, just because her hand was trembling and shaking so much due to the regret, due to that feeling, due to that, you know, emptiness in her life that she had faced, and that her desire couldn't ever come true to live her life like the tiger. Then we see the massive weight of Uncle's wedding band. You know why? Massive means large. It is because her fingers are suppressed under the burden of that wedding ring which she's wearing in her finger, and which is a symbol of which you can say uh, symbolizes as a wedding band that she is a married woman. It indicates, but then it is more like a burden than like a ring, just because her marriage has never allowed her enough freedom to live like an individual. And this is what had always been lacking in her life, which she is explaining here. And then she says, sits heavily upon Aunt Jennifer's hand. That means that ring, that wedding ring, is sitting heavily on the finger of Aunt Jennifer. Or you can talk about that wedding band. You can take it as a wedding band or that ring. So, whatever it is actually not like an ornament or not like a symbol that is indicating that she's a married woman, but it's more like an oppression, it's more like a suppression, it's more like a burden, just because this is the indication of her marriage. This is the symbol of her being a married woman, and the same object has become a cause of her fear, lack of freedom, suppression, and that she had to even lose herself as an individual to remain under the command of somebody else. And this is how she has missed such a life where she could be as free as the tigers. So we see that in this particular stanza there was a usage of the literary device called alliteration, as I told you, because the letter F was repeating in the two words in the same line. Then we come on to the third stanza. When Aunt is dead, her terrified hands will lie, still ringed with ordeals she was mastered by. The tigers in the panel that she made will go on prancing, proud and unafraid. So beautifully she has mentioned that when Aunt is dead, it means the poetess is showing you the hopelessness of the ant. She is in such a dire state of her life that she does not even hope to get a better life than this, and she is very sure about it as a fact that she would have to die with the ring on, and then as a result she would have lost her entire life in that suppression. And then she cannot even imagine or desire or dream for freedom, just because this slavery has been so beautifully uh, you know thrusted upon her. with the help of that wedding band and proper wedding and proper arrangements. So she has to live in the name of wedding under that servitude for all her life, under that slavery for all her life. And she's saying, the poetess is saying, that even when this ant has died with this finger, ringed like this, with this wedding band, and with ordeals. Ordeals means difficult experience of life that she has undergone, that she has faced, all the commands of her master. Who is master? Her husband. The tigers in the panel. At that time when she would be lying dead, just somebody who had never any hope for freedom and who had simply been mastered by always. So at that point of time as well, these tigers that she is weaving right now in the panel would go on, means would continuously prance, and as proud as they appear to be right now, and as unafraid as they appear to be right now. So this is how we see that the third stanza also comes to an end. And here in this stanza we see again a figure of speech that we discussed in the second stanza, which is called alliteration, has been used in the last line. Will go on prancing, proud and unafraid. So as I told you, when it happens that in a single line, in one line itself, it happens that there we find two words or more than two words having the same first letter, and the condition is that the letter which is repeating itself in more than one word must be a letter that gives a consonant sound. So here we see prancing, proud. Prancing has got P and proud also has got P. So P is repeating itself in the two words which are there in the same line, and P is also a consonant sound giving letter. So this is a figure of speech which is called alliteration. So this is how we come to this conclusion that metaphorically the tigers had been used by the poetess to portray the contrast life of Aunt Jennifer, who had been suffering in the male dominating society as a victim of the patriarchal notions that were prevailing in the society and that are still prevailing in the society to some extent. And this has been very beautifully explained in this poem. I hope you understood this poem. If you have actually liked it, then please like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching.